Hello. Did you just come out of that tent?
Yes.
I thought the zip was there. Must be a back door.
It's got 3 bedrooms.
You're with the Volvo, are you?
I'm
you
with
are.
the Volvo.
You certainly are. You've got that hat on.
I've attached
Do you
to
have
it,
much room for 2 other people to share the petrol with you?
What, all the way? No, because I've undertaken to take the guide.
Okay. Right.
Then, plus some luggage.
Okay. Right, well that's that one exhausted. Don't worry.
And now for your luxury accommodation, we take you through the lounge room and bedroom.
Sandra and Joan invited you into their delightful home.
Yeah, the delightful red chair. What's the money there?
We're thinking of abandoning it because the clutch has gone and we'd have to wait a couple of days to have a new plate made if they can do that. So it's better that we make the decision now. And I want to complete the whole journey. So I'm going to have to try and get a lift with someone else.
Well, there's plenty of single guys here.
Let's go and explore.
There's loads of them. There's
Okay.
Dan Cuthbert. There's a Ford Sierra.
Thank you. I'll go have a look.
Has he found it, Chris? Chris found it.
Well, he lost it, and actually we didn't look to check around my waist, and I was wearing it. His passport and money.
You're about shouting at each other.
No,
Like
not
you've got
really.
his passport.
We're really shouting. Not loudly, anyway.
Sarah is desperately trying to find a lift.
What are you driving? The Hillman?
The Isuzu.
The what?
Isuzu Troopers, 4x4.
Have you got any room in it?
Well, we won't be leaving here till probably, at the best, Monday night, more likely Tuesday night.
So, it'll pass me a gin and tonic. It's about that time of the day. Lovely. Onwards.
They might even be open this morning. I mean, the only reason we're not getting ours fixed this morning is I was stupid enough to give the geezer our keys.
Well, let's go and find him.
Apparently, yeah, it's first.
Is he
Who
here?
used him?
But it's too late for Sarah to find help from the rally. The cars are already leaving.
Yeah, I told her about that. So she said, oh, well, we'll try and get ours fixed then. So that's another person in convoy, maybe.
Jay?
That's possible today, after
please,
tomorrow.
please.
It's for, I don't know, it's mechanic. You come for auto mechanic?
Okay.
Yes.
Sarah and Stephen aren't the only ones being left behind. Team New Forest Stallion Citroen has also conked out.
Yeah, it's a good job it didn't happen on the road to nowhere. On the camel trail. Diagnostic socket. We have earth condenser. Oh, that's the radio. Freeze coil. The thing we've got to go back to is the coil, I think.
Yes, coil or the module.
Yeah. I was certain it was developing a good spark. So looks like coil's got to come off. We'll put all this back. Don't forget that. And then we'll take the coil off.
What should you do then? Throw it away?
Get another one.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll just nip down to the... there's a Citroen dealer in Leamington. Don't they have the AA here?
I've got my card with me.
just waiting for the tortoises and the unknowns. Do you know if they're nearby?
Hugh's lookout post is creating so much wind resistance that the tortoise won't get up into fourth gear.
We just want to travel together a bit, start getting that happening, so that we don't have a problem when we're at the border and trying to get organised. We just want to do it. We did when we were travelling to Casablanca. We managed to stay together quite well, but we're going to wait for them just at the border, I think.
Eventually the teams arrived at the windswept border, but the day is just starting. It's not the most welcoming of places.
You're from Mauritania.
He's from Banjul.
No.
The customs officer checks all the chassis numbers and gives everyone a stringent search. It's not a good moment to have uncontrollable bowels.
I've taken a couple of tablets that we bought in Greece, and they seem to be all right at the moment.
The Greeks know what they're doing when it comes to diarrhea.
They're the world's leading exponents. It's the diarrhea capital of the world, Athens. I think it's just petrol crisps, are it? You know the crisps we got out of the boot that was... They reeked of petrol, but I had a mouthful and swallowed it, and the rest of the day I was belching petrol fumes. And I think it worked its way through my system this morning.
Julian is worried about the dodgy paperwork he sold to Team X.
Their VIN number doesn't marry up with their logbook, they're coming later. Maybe they won't be checked, maybe they will. So half of me says phone them up and warn them, and the other half says that would scare them big time and just not tell them and hope that they're lucky. So...
After the customs officer, there is the customs inspector, and after that, there is the customs chief. And then, there is the line for immigration.
And
they really gave us a good thorough search.
they did.
They checked all the roof in here, underneath all the mats in the glove compartment. Yeah. The guys next to us pulled up after us, about 20 minutes after us, and got through customs, no trouble. Found a couple of beers in the boot that he whipped out and just waved them through.
Yeah.
So
that's the way.
We did offer them some of the Kendall mint cake that my mum gave us.
Yeah.
But
all right, somebody's causing a big traffic jam now.
Steve explains that although there isn't far to go, the formalities on the Mauritanian side of the border are even slower.
Hour and a half, if you know the way.
And if you get lost, then it's nightfall and you have to camp.
We've got the other half of the formalities.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
But probably it's quite
when you get to that point, you're halfway.
Thoughts turn to the dangers of crossing the minefield in no man's land.
It's just going to be exciting to tell the kids, isn't it, that when you were
I
younger...
lost my leg.
Finally, it's time to run the gauntlet of the minefield. The cars leave the tarmac road for the first time and follow the marked route. But when the markings stop, the only clue are the tracks of the other vehicles in the sand. before long, the route becomes difficult to follow and sandy. One by one, the cars start to get stuck. Team Lockstock try their sand ladders to free the car.
Commit yourself back here, keep looking well ahead and just go straight through it.
Nothing beats brute force.
Go on. Go on. Keep going. Go on. Don't let go of the left. Keep going. Go on.
Either side of the tracks are stark reminders of the mines. The going gets tougher until some local smugglers in a 4x4 stop to tell the teams about an easier track further back.
Stop to give us a hand, to show us imbeciles how it works.
Yeah. You go back and take a turn in, there's less sand. What? You go back and take a turn in, there's less sand.
Yeah. We'll go back.
But even going back is not easy. And even the teams that have stumbled across the easy route are having problems. After an arduous 10 miles, they reach Mauritania, but it's not exactly the warm welcome the teams were hoping for. By now, they're used to African formalities and waiting. There's a usual mix of confusion and waiting in several lines, but the military aren't used to eccentric British rallies, and the extra work is not appreciated. Local guides have materialised at the border and tout for business. There are still 40 miles to go off-road before any teams make it to Nouadhibou city. For €200, they will guide a convoy of 5 cars into town tonight and on across the 400 miles of desert to the other side of the Sahara. Choosing the wrong guide now could spell disaster later. By the time the teams are through the border formalities, the sun is setting, and it's nightfall before they make it to the Nouadhibou campsite. Next morning, it's clear that Nouadhibou is no picture postcard paradise. From here, the teams have to double back and loop inland to get to the national park entrance. That's where the teams plan to camp for the night. Then it's back to the coast to finish the Sahara crossing with a drive along the beach. It shouldn't take more than 2 days. At the main campsite in Nouadhibou, Steve gives advice and assigns guides to the 5-car convoys so that they can all meet up on the first night in the desert.
One day tomorrow, would you hit the national park entrance or not?
If you set off in the front, chances are people aren't going to catch up. If you're at the back, chances are you're not going to catch up. If you're in the middle, you'll see the majority of the people, won't you?
Those who are going this afternoon, they'll have 2 nights in the desert.
Yeah.
And those who are going tomorrow may have 1 night in the desert.
If you want to try and do it in one night, then if you leave tomorrow, it needs to be quite early.
Yeah. What was our last car?
Citroen.
Citroen ZX.
As usual, events are superseding Julian's attempts at organisation.
But we've got no meeting plans in Nouakchott because there are too many campsites and we can't fit everyone in one single campsite. So it all falls to pieces.
Lowe doesn't trust the local guides and didn't want to pay to be guided into town last night.
I thought it was one road into town, but when we got there, it obviously wasn't the route we were supposed to be taking. So there was no chance I could have done it on my own. But, well, what do? You have to go with these guys, and they're all bloody rip-offs.
Team Desert Rats paid their guide a generous advance yesterday, and this morning he's vanished.
We'll never get the €50 back from the other guy.
No. One other question. Well, I realise that. Yeah. The other question is, if the other guy wasn't an official guide, how do we know he's an official guide?
ايوه هذيك يعني بطاقة يعني المرشد.
مفتاح هذا نقدر نشوفه
لكن هو ما يهدرش يعني انت راك تهدر العربية مليح ما كانش مشكل.
Then we broke down the desert, didn't we? The points disintegrated. We thought, that's it, finished. We're going to die, you know.
and we just cut a bit of bread crate out the back, stuck it to the points, adjusted it by hand. No feeler gauge or anything timing.
Never performed so well.
No, it does 100 mile an hour now. Cracking car. The silicone, fix anything.
This is our friend Dad done it. Yeah. Got us this far. Taking us to Dwight Chop. We'll end it up.
Ella has decided to find her own guide rather than use one recommended by Steve.
Ok, oui, oui. En avance. Ça, ok, c'est possible. Oui. Okay. I'm happy to give this man money because he's recommended from the camp man here, so, you know. Okay. He wants 100 up front. I'm happy to give him 100.
No, 50 up front maximum. Not giving him 100 up front.
Maybe I'll ask him what the money's for.
Un peu d'argent laissé par ma famille.
Your famille.
Et de faire quelque chose, oui. Ce n'est rien.
Ok.
Quoi 50.
50. Non, 50. Nous, vous agree. Ok. À bientôt. Okay.
After the break, Surf's Up. It's the first time Chris has looked under the bonnet of his car.
What are you doing to the car?
Well, there was a bit of a problem with the car. The fan wasn't going round, so it was my idea. I came up with this on my own because I know a lot about cars. I'm basically just making the fan on by connecting some cables to it.
Oh yeah! And I've got hands that are a bit oily as well because I've been working. I might have to run them over this, and I won't wash them for a couple of days. And if anyone asks me what I've been doing, I could just say I've been working on a motor.
Amazingly, Ella's guide turns up as arranged and they set off, a day ahead of the rest of the rally into the desert. Sam hasn't practiced his French since he was a schoolboy. Chatting with Mohammed has brought it all flooding back.
Combien de temps vous faire le guide faire le guide à Nouakchott?
Depuis combien que le fait? Depuis longtemps.
Hein?
Depuis longtemps, depuis 84.
84?
Depuis 84, je le fais.
84 times.
84 depuis le fait. Presque 20 et quelques. 22 ans.
Very precise. 84 times.
On their way out of town, they crossed Team X, whose late start from Morocco meant they spent the night at the border.
We didn't want to pay the €10 to
No,
come
we wouldn't
through.
pay the €10, so they held us up there. Did you not pay? No, we wouldn't pay them a penny.
We refused. We just gave them a pot
We
noodle.
gave them a pot noodle in the end.
But we had to sit there for about 2.5 hours.
We blagged it though. There was time to make lunch and everything.
And this guy we got for free because he just wants to go home. So
He's our free guide as well. We're blagging everything. No money. We're off.
We've got a misfire number 1 plug. Hoping to get that fixed this evening.
Steve left instructions of one of the guides to help Team X through, but it hasn't been appreciated.
Right. We want to word with Shady Steve when we get there. He's setting us up for bad deals.
Don't do it. Don't go there.
Bad? Why is it so bad?
There's only one restaurant in town.
Oh, no burger joints.
I know, actually, there's a Chinese, and we had camel last night.
Oh no.
Yeah. We didn't have to slay it ourselves though. It's a little tough.
Steve's got a lot to answer for. Bits of paper here and paying money out there.
So we're not very happy about putting it on behind you.
We want to get the foot start.
Okay.
It's been a long first day for Ella's convoy, but they haven't travelled very far, and in the darkness the guide has led all the cars into soft sand.
How many times have you put this tent up to on your own? I think this ground's too soft. Try digging that in again, Andy.
Oh, is it diesel? No, it doesn't. It's terrible.
I don't think diesel burns.
Only Ella seems to have brushed up on her campcraft skills.
Well, if you can get them going, that's the problem so far.
It's an early start for the rest of the rally as the teams left in Nouadhibou hit the road.
See you later.
And for Ella's convoy too, it's an early start. As the main body of the convoy leave the city, there's a poignant reminder of the risks they have undertaken. A local driver is driven over a mine in no man's land. It's slow going for Ella's group. They have to contend with rocky terrain and then sandy sections. For the rest of the rally, their guides are taking them over much easier ground and travelling much faster than Ella's group have done. Nonetheless, Ella's group decide there is time to have a look at the first dunes and try a bit of surfing.
Oh, yes! Oh.
Sam tries to get his Audi all the way to the top. The rocky ground has taken its toll on Fran and Howard's 4x4 Tercel.
I've brought our toolkit just in case you need a hand. How are we going to tie it back up to keep it there? 'Cause it's basically lost the mountain then.
The exhaust pipe has fallen off. While they get to work fixing it, the others have time for some housekeeping.
That is desert white. That's desert
white. Slightly grey, in other words.
Meanwhile, the rest of the rally is almost caught up. Mohammed takes Ella's group to an isolated hut where they can buy supplies. But while they are looking, another convoy arrives, led by the Cobb cruisers.
Yeah, they left this morning.
Very good. They do work actually. They work quite well with the satellite drives. You know.
But it's not all plain sailing for the Cobb Cruisers convoy either. Team Heavey are losing power. With no help for 100 miles, they have no choice but to fix it themselves. Thankfully, mechanics Nigel and Alan are on hand to find the problem. With a sewing kit and the kiss of life, Alan clears the carbs and brings the larder back to life. Pretty soon, Ron's larder is suffering the same problems. It looks like the desert is getting the better of the Russian engines.
It ticks over beautifully. As soon as you put your foot down, just not enough fuel is getting through it.
Nigel.
Edmund is Team Heavy's mascot.
It's the only way we've got here. Edmund's done all our navigation for us.
While Ron tinkers with the carb, Team Wacky Racers convoy catches up.
The hunter's still ploughing on though. Really? That's good. Wow. Yeah. Very happy with that.
Are they behind you?
Sorry?
Are they behind you?
Yeah, we've got another lot just behind us. Julian's lot. We keep swapping over. So.
Yeah, 1 minute they're in front of you, the next minute they've gone. And, that's it, thousands of miles, and how can you lose them?
Our guide's a bit dodgy. Everybody else seems to be hurtling ahead of us in two-wheel drive ones, and we seem to be always catching up.
Letting the tyres down will help across the upcoming sandy sections.
It's going all right. Yeah, enjoying it. This morning I had a bit of a moment, wanted to go home, missing the kids. I'm like, I've had enough, but that's gone now. Didn't like that town back there, New Adabu.
With their tyres at half pressure, the Wacky Racers are off again. Before long, they have to stop again. Matt's noticed some liquid seeping out of Dave's larder. The broken shock is quickly removed, but there is no spare to replace it with. Nonetheless, the convoy ploughs on.